Mais oui. If you're a copywriter or a freelancer and you don't know the difference between copy replication and copy duplication, this one's for you. Hey everyone, and this video is going to be dedicated to one thing that all of us do on a weekly basis, or at least we're trying to do on a weekly basis, and that is creating content. We're going to cover a couple of things. First of all, why this matters. Why do people do this? Why do you do this? Why do your clients ask you to do this? How this drives money. And most importantly, what are the biggest pitfalls that exist? And then we're going to talk about how we can circumvent those pitfalls with the amazing tools that we have at our disposal today, and how those tools can increase the money that you bring in if you're doing this professionally. So let's get into it. Content. Why do we do this? Let me paint you a picture. Imagine internet as the vast galaxy, the universe, the stars, the planet, the constellations, and the black holes. Yeah, so you can think of social platforms as the big constellations, and the black holes are those forums where you can just go down the rabbit hole and waste a lot of time. But suffice to say, there are many people in this vast space of the internet. And when you or your client first start out, no one knows you exist. So what is content? Those are the arrows that point at you and say, hey, check it out. Look at this cool service over here. And so the more arrows, the more directions you put out there that point back to yourself, the more people find you, the more clients you can get. And this is where conversion rates comes into play, because you want as many people to have the chance to discover you in order to be able to buy from you or from your clients if you're doing content for somebody else. That makes sense. Brand awareness, clear. Audience relationship building is number 2, because a relationship starts off slowly. If you take somebody out on the first date, granted, somebody is willing to jump into the sack after the first date. Hey, to each their own, good for you. But most people, most relationships take time to nurture. So you introduce yourself, then you take them out on a quote unquote second date. They start reading about you, they start having a conversation, they become comfortable with you, and that relationship then materializes into a mutual exchange of value. Another reason why we create content is because we want to establish authority and credibility. And authority and credibility gives people that warm and fuzzy feeling that they can buy from you. And you want that. Everyone wants that. That's why we generate so much good, rich content. Then you also want to drive traffic. Of course, this is all this is about. Those arrows are pointing to your website or your landing page or squeeze page, whatever it might be. But traffic is what we're after. And then, of course, SEO, the search engine optimization nirvana. Why do we want that? Well, because that is another post that allows people to discover us in that vast ocean or the universe of the internet. And finally, you want to be that go-to person. I have a couple of people I follow on YouTube almost religiously. I like their delivery style. I like what they talk about, and I know how this helps me. So you see how this all ties together, and you're sitting there saying, yeah, okay, fine, I get it. You're not creating anything new. Okay. Be that as it may, it bears repeating as to why we're doing this. In the past, when people wanted to scale, because there are so many different social media platforms, we have so many different vehicles for people to know about you, it was difficult. It was difficult to be everywhere at the same time. You had to have EAs, you had to have help in order to make your content appear on other platforms. So people took shortcuts. This is what I want to talk about. They used to duplicate content. Copy, paste. You should never, ever do that, especially with AI tools that we have at our disposal. Why do you never want to duplicate content? Well, let me tell you. But before I do, I want to draw a distinction between replicate and duplicate. Duplicate is what I want you to avoid doing. Never duplicate content in today's world. And if you do duplicate, here are the 5 things that you can expect. You will not cater to audience preferences at different platforms because each and every platform has different demographics, has different psychographics, and different ways of people communicating. Copy and paste, and you're bound to alienate somebody on one of those platforms. Algorithmic variations. If that algo finds that that content is a duplicate of another platform, chances are it's not going to serve it at all. And that also has an impact on your SEO because Google, Bing, they do not like seeing repetitive content. In fact, if you take your blog post and you just copy paste it onto Medium, you're doing a massive disservice to yourself because both of those pieces of content are going to be downgraded by the search engines. Don't do that, please. Engagement issues. We have to talk about that because repeated inauthentic content, actually, content might be very well authentic, but repeating the same content in a video and then in a post makes people believe that it's inauthentic. That is complete opposite of building an authority, complete opposite of becoming the go-to person. And then, of course, platform limitations. The best example is the 280 character limit for Twitter versus unlimited number of characters if you're writing a blog. These are all of the reasons why you do not want to be duplicating content, but you do want to be replicating content. And what I've done is I've pulled together probably 2 months of research and trial and error into creating a framework that allows you to take a piece of content, say a blog or a YouTube video, and then replicate it into over 70 different items purposefully designed for the social platforms where you want to exist. It essentially takes that and multiplies that in such a way that creates all of those arrows pointing towards you. That framework takes into account all of the things we talked about. What did I include in the framework? Well, in the framework, I included everything from step 1. How do you generate an idea? How do you generate a lot of content ideas? How do you take that idea and plan it out? Once you've planned it out, how do you describe your first big piece of content? For example, a YouTube script. How do you take that script and then create a very good long form post out of it? How do you summarize that post? How do you take that post and create an essay that you can post on Medium? How do you take that blog post and then translate it into tweets, threads, long form tweets, Facebook post, Instagram post, taking advantage of what those platforms allow you to do? How do you take the tweets and make shorts out of them without having to record yourself? How do you take your YouTube video and create shorts out of that? How do you take a blog post and then go and create a podcast? All of that is in that framework. And you know what? It's all doable within probably 4 hours. So what I'm saying is if you have a YouTube video that's about 10 minutes long, in 4 hours, you can have more than 72 pieces of content. That's pretty good, wouldn't you say? And I watched a bunch of YouTube videos on this same subject when I was researching this topic, and a lot of them are over a year old. This is before ChatGPT and AI assistants change the landscape dramatically. If you want to check out my MRC-ai framework, you can find it in the description below. And since you watched all the way till this point, follow me on Twitter and then send me a message saying, I want MRC-ai, and I'm going to give you a 30% off coupon. So good luck. I look forward to hearing back from you. And now you know why we create content, what are the pitfalls of duplicating content, and what you need to do to replicate content at scale. See you in the next one.